Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us for this Study in Denmark presentation. Do you know where Denmark is? No? Yes? And now I think he already showed you the map. So now you're cheating. I can't ask you anymore because you just saw a view of the map. But I'm here to talk more about studying in Denmark. And there you go. This is Denmark. And Denmark is in Europe, of course. All the universities here today is all located in Europe. And if you look at the map up here, you can see Denmark is just north of Germany. And then you have Sweden and Norway and Finland higher up north, and those are the Nordic countries. But you can also see how easy it is to gain access to the rest of Europe. So when you study in Denmark, you get the Schengen visa. And the Schengen visa means that when you study in Europe or study in Denmark, you can actually travel all over. You don't need to apply for a visa to go to Germany or Italy or Spain. It's quite easy access, as you can see. I think even Indonesia, if you put Indonesia on top of Europe, it would, I don't think it would even fit here. So I guess Europe is almost smaller, at least in terms of square meters, than Europe. And over here you see Europe, Denmark, sorry. It's a small country with a lot of coastline, as you can see, and actually more than 400 small islands. So it's nothing compared with Indonesia, but at least in Europe and Denmark, that's quite a few. So a lot of water. I've just added a few of the bigger cities, Copenhagen, which is the capital, where a lot of people know the capital. And then you have Aarhus, the second largest city, Aalborg, the third largest city, and Odense, the fourth largest city. And in Denmark, a lot of universities are placed in some of these cities, but even outside of the cities. That was the wrong way. Here you go. Denmark is in which country? I heard it's one of the most Googled phrases, so that people are actually asking what country Denmark is in, but you just saw on the map, it is a country. So I thought it would be good to start with the basics. It's a small country. I think we have even fewer inhabitants in Denmark than here in Jakarta. Only 5.8 million. The capital is Copenhagen, as you just saw on the map, and a lot of coastline. More than 8,000 kilometers. So you're never more than 52 kilometers from the sea, wherever you are in Denmark. You can drink the water from the tap, and it's also home of Carlsberg. Carlsberg is just one example of some of the many big companies you might have heard of already. You might have heard of Lego, Carlsberg, Vestas with the windmills, Grundfos and Danfoss that do pumps, Novo Nordisk. A lot of huge companies are coming out of Denmark. So even it's small size, there's quite a few big companies. And Denmark is second to only the Netherlands. I saw a lot of universities from the Netherlands. But as in the Netherlands, you need to learn how to bike because everyone will be biking, especially when you live in some of the student cities. So how is it to be an international in Denmark, you might ask? And I think Denmark is a great place to live. At least we think so in Denmark. Because we are some of the happiest people in the world, in case you didn't know. I know right now we're competing with people from Finland, Iceland, and Sweden, but I think in the Nordic countries, a lot of the countries are placed on top of the happiness list. And why is that? So I listed a few of the reasons here. Denmark has a healthy work-life balance. So for instance, I will be working 37 hours a week, and I have between 5 and 6 weeks paid vacation. And there's a lot of emphasis on having work-life balance, where you balance your work life with what you do the rest of your life. And that also goes when you study. You have to balance your study life with the rest of the things you do. It's also a very safe country. It's one of the 5 safest countries in the world. It has the world's lowest level of corruption and one of the lowest crime rates in the world. So I think being safe and secure is also a huge part of being happy and have a nice life. Denmark is a welfare society, so there's high tax rates, you might have heard. But with high tax rates, it also comes with a lot of free benefits, also for international students. So you'll get free healthcare when you study in Denmark. So if you're an Indonesian studying in Denmark, you'll have free access to hospitals, doctor, and that's also why we have high quality of education. We only have public universities, and they are all supported by the government. We have a great infrastructure, so streets, buses, trains, everything is very easy to use. It's a very safe environment, and I think you would say there's a high standard of living. So here you see a few of pictures from Denmark, some of the things we are famous for: sustainability, the windmill industry, green technologies. Denmark was actually home of the Vikings once in a time. If you go and visit our booth, I think the embassy even brought the Viking helmet. So you can see the ruins here from back in the time. And of course the seaside, a lot of student activities when you study in some of the bigger cities, and some lovely places to visit. So Danes are the 5th best in the world when it comes to speaking English. So it's ranked among the 5th in terms of non-Anglophone speakers. So if you look at this list, you can also see some of the other Nordic countries and in Europe in general that you can actually get by speaking English. But of course, the native language will be Danish. So when you study in Denmark, you'll get access to free Danish courses. So your study program will be in English. You're able to talk to the bus driver in English in a supermarket, but you will be able to do Danish classes. And it can be a good idea if you want to know about the culture. If you wish to stay perhaps for some years and work as well, it's good to know some Danish. So where to study? So there's 5 different what do you call higher education institutions, kind of higher education institutions in Denmark. You have the business academies, university colleges, institutions in architecture and art, music, and some maritime educational institutions. I would like to talk a bit more about the universities. Today we have 2 universities here, Aarhus University and University of Southern Denmark. And I think that's where most of you are interested in doing either a bachelor or a master's degree. So let's have a look at those. There are currently 8 public universities in Denmark. So this is the entire list. Some of them are in the bottom here. You see a business school, IT university, and a technical university are more specialized in a certain field, but the rest are actually comprehensive university where you'll find master's and bachelor degrees from a wide range of fields, from engineering, arts, business. So you could actually go and have a look, and today Aarhus University and University of Southern Denmark is currently here at this fair, but you're also able to find all the class or courses on our website, studyindenmark.dk, if you wish to learn more. So why would you choose to study in Denmark? What's the difference between studying in Indonesia and choosing to study in Denmark? I think one of the things that you will notice, and that when you speak to students that are currently from Indonesia in Denmark, they will say there's a lot of freedom to design your own course of study. A lot of the master classes have a few mandatory courses, but a lot of electives, or a lot of freedom to do projects within the field, so you would broaden things out or really specialize within a certain topic. It's up to you, and you'll talk to your advisors at the university. So when you look at the study program, sometimes it can be hard to figure out what are the classes I'm going to do. A lot of times you have to decide what you would like to focus on. There's a lot of focus on learning, and that it's okay to fail, because you learn something from failing. It's okay. You don't always have to do great. It can actually be a good thing. You could do a project entirely wrong, but if you at the exam tell why did I do it wrong, what did I learn, you could actually end up getting an A, because it's okay to fail. There's a huge focus on problem solving and open debate. So during your lectures, you would solve problems, look at real life problems, how with our theory, how can we use this to solve something? And you'll work in groups and inspire each other. Sometimes I know students can get a bit tired of working in groups. Can I just do it on my own instead of always collaborating with others? But the matter of fact is that you need to work in groups also when you start working in a company. And that's right now why Denmark is doing so great in terms of why do we not have to work so much? Because we work in groups, we use each other, you know this, I know that, and together, like 1 + 1 is not only 2, it can be 4 and 5 when you work together. And the universities work closely with industry, and the researchers are deeply involved with industry projects. And that's also why students often will work with industry or public organizations or institutions when they do project and learn more. Another fact I think is not just Denmark, but I think Sweden, Finland, like the Nordic countries, the teaching are, we have a Scandinavian teaching style. There's a very flat hierarchy in the Nordic country and in Denmark. If you choose to come up here and speak to me, I will tell you to call me Sarah. Not ma'am, not professor, not teacher. Because you will, if you study in Denmark, talk to your professor, ask questions, discuss, disagree, knock on his door when you have some doubts. And that's part of the learning culture. It's a very informal learning environment, and they focus on in-depth knowledge, analytical skills, and independent and a critical approach. You don't necessarily need to agree with the professor. They love it when you disagree. They love to have that discussion with you. All teaching at our universities are research-based teaching. It's by active researchers, and there's an ongoing quality review by the Ministry of Education. And of course, the format could be very different. It could be small lectures, seminars, lab work, study groups, and projects with fellow students. So how do you apply? So in some countries like Sweden, they have like a coordinated deadline for all the universities. That's not how it works, at least not on master's level. There is a coordinated bachelor's application where you apply once a year. But then for the master's application, you can apply separately to each of the universities in Denmark. So you have to be aware of the deadlines. There might even be 2 deadlines a year, or 2 study intakes. But this is the upcoming deadline for all the 8 universities in Denmark. And as you can see, most of them are 15th of January, but you can actually apply to Aalborg University until the 1st of March. So have a look at the website and go to their university page to apply. So in general, you need a relevant and recognized bachelor's degree to apply for a master's. I won't go into the bachelor's here, but come to our booth if that's what you're interested in, because then you need a high school diploma. And then there can be some specific admission requirements, and typically you also need an English language requirement. It can be a TOEFL and IELTS. And to get the exact specific requirements, you have to contact the institution or go typically to the website and have a look. It could be courses you need to have taken. If you study engineering, you need engineering courses, mechanical engineering courses. You might have a grade level average. There could be different things that they're searching for, a CV, letter of motivation. It could be different things. So you have to look at that specific study program you're applying for and then follow whatever they're telling you to upload. I think there's a lot of focus also, so how to fund my studies. What are the possibilities if I wish to study in Denmark for funding, housing? I think Denmark is, there's affordable education in Denmark. We have competitive tuition fees. It's between 6,000 and 16,000 euros for a year. When you look at, for instance, United States, Australia, or some of the other study destinations, this is very affordable if you compare it with the quality of the education you get, the rankings, the quality of the institutions. There's two options to apply for funding. One is the Danish State Scholarship. The Danish State Scholarship is handled by the universities. So each universities are getting the funds from Ministry of Education. And for instance, at Aarhus University, they will decide what study programs are available for scholarships. When you apply, you automatically apply for the scholarship. So it's not an extra application or something, you don't have to stay back afterwards. There's no strings attached. It's funds that belongs to the university, and the university will let you know if you received a scholarship. So you need to apply. And how much? Is it just a tuition fee waiver, or is it a living stipend? You can see that on the different study program pages. But the universities have their own money, and they will use the Danish State Scholarship as they think it should be used. But it's for talented students, typically with high grades, and that's done well on their bachelor's degree. So there's no Danish State Scholarship for bachelor's degrees. You also have the opportunity to apply for the LPDP. Several universities are on the LPDP list. I think currently at least 5, so go and have a look. And of course, there's the Erasmus Mundus programs, which is open. I think the guys are sitting out here, and each university have several Erasmus Mundus programs where you apply separately for the EU grant. I think another thing that's important to mention is that international students have the right to work. Most students in Denmark work part-time, Danish students, international students, and you can work as a non-EU citizen up to 20 hours a week and full-time in the summer. Student housing. You might have heard about the housing crisis in Europe. It's not a housing crisis necessarily in Denmark. It depends on the city. In the bigger cities, it's often more expensive, but a lot of different housing opportunities and student housing is provided by the municipalities. So some cities even have too much housing. Often you will live on campus, and you will live in, or off campus, or you will live in a dormitory, or in a shared apartment where you share a kitchen and you do your own cooking. So this is an estimated budget for students. So my Indonesian students tell me this is a generous budget, in their opinion, but it's an average budget. And as you can see, a big pile of the budget, it's rent and it's food. So it's up to you really if you want to live in a dorm with other students, or do you want to live in the center of the city in a huge apartment? Then this budget will change, definitely. Also food, typically in Denmark, people don't go out as much and eat. They'll cook at home, cook with other students, and that way keep the budget down. And then of course, healthcare, as I mentioned, is free, also for international students. So I think that's also worth mentioning when you look at, for instance, Australia or United States. So how does it look? Because one thing is to show an average budget. Well, so here's an example from where I asked Vidur. He's an Indian student, and as he said, he lived in a dorm, one of the cheapest in Aarhus, the city he's studying in, and it's around 5 million rupees a month. At the beginning, he had a very tight food budget, so he used around 500,000 rupees a week. And then he actually earned some money working. So as you can see, as a student, you can actually work both in the service sector, cleaning, restaurants, find a job. And later, he worked in a relevant job to his education, and he had a higher salary. But you can see the salaries are quite high in Denmark. You pay some taxes, but there is a high minimum wage in a lot of the different areas, I think, compared. So you also have to think of this. When you look at Edgar's budget, similar. He lived in a dorm as well. And he also works 2 jobs to support himself, both as a student assistant at the university, but also as a bartender. I think a lot of you is thinking this could also be a good time to get a career, perhaps, to work for some years in another country, to set some goals and work in an interesting job using your the education you just got in the country. I think in Denmark there's a demand for international talent from the Danish companies. That also means that just this April there was a change. That means that if you are a graduate from a bachelor degree, a master degree, a PhD degree, you automatically get a 3-year stay-back visa, a job search visa in Denmark. So you have 3 years to search for a job, and you can always change this job search visa into a work permit. I think that shows that the government has been listening to the companies. They want people to stay and actually use their degree. There's a very low unemployment rate, 2.9. That also means, yes, you can find the job in the service sector, cleaning jobs, as a student. And high salaries, it's around 4,000 euros a month and up. I think for engineering, it's even 5,500 euros for a month. And as I mentioned, excellent work-life balance, and you can learn Danish for free. There's a focus right now at the Danish universities on career services. The government is currently funding a lot of supporting the universities in developing career services, focusing on our international students. Because we know that if you need to get that job, you need to focus on your career from day one. So at the universities, they will have different kinds of initiatives from the first semester, where you can learn Danish, you can network with companies. How do you write your CV? How do you write your application? How do you network in Denmark? What are you supposed to say if you have a job interview? Should you say yes to a cup of coffee or no? Or what are the rules? So that's something you need to work on while you study, so you're ready if you want to apply. There's, it will give you a head start, I think, on a career. And there are a lot of English-speaking jobs, both student jobs and jobs after graduation for those that are interested. So it's good to learn some Danish, but it's not necessarily important in your everyday work life. This is what I just spoke about, the new stay-back options after graduation. You automatically get a 3-year job-seeking period, and you can always turn it into a work permit. And you can read more about this. It was just awarded this April, so it's quite new, so not everyone has heard about this yet, but I think this is an excellent opportunity for our graduates. It makes it just so much easier to stay if you wish and get a job. So let's talk. We are at the back of everything. We have a few universities and the embassy here to talk about studying in Denmark. This is the website you can visit. So please make sure to join us. We're more than happy to share and listen to you if there's anything we can help you with. Yeah. That was it. I have 5 minutes. So you're forced to ask me questions, because else you will have to listen to me ramble. I can talk forever, but I would love some questions. Yes? Can you?
I just want to confirm that the subjects are taught in English, or just only some programs are in the English?
So it's not all programs that are taught in English, but this website, it has the list of everything in Denmark taught in English. So all the universities, academies, university colleges, they all added their study programs in English on this website. So everything you'll find on this is in English, and the universities, of course, have study programs only in Danish as well. So, but the researchers and staff teaching, they're from all over the world. So we have PhDs and postdocs from all over the world. So that's also why that sometimes 50% of a department will be internationals actually working in Denmark at the universities. But this is the list where you'll find everything in English.
Is there any question?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me bring you the mic. Please tell your name by stand up.
So I'm kind of curious about the residence permit that you've mentioned. So we automatically get 3 years job seeking period. Is it within Denmark or EU countries?
It is Denmark, but it is the Schengen visa. So you're free to travel and go on holiday, but you have to apply for a job in Denmark. Yes. So the new rule, so if your passport is, let's say you're going to study a master's degree, your passport needs to be valid, for instance, for 6 years. Then they'll give you 2 years to study your master's. You can extend that to 2.5 years. And then they'll give you 3 years automatically for the job-seeking period.
In Denmark?
In Denmark. So you need to work and study in Denmark, but you're free to travel all over Europe. But it's not a residence permit for Germany. It's a residence permit for Denmark.
What if we got the opportunity of career outside Denmark?
Then you need to apply for a working permit, let's say, in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. But you could, I mean, as I just mentioned, there's so many multinational companies in Denmark, right? So they might have an office and an opportunity to stay within the company, but if you decide to stay in a country for longer than a certain period, then you need a residence permit for that country. I think it's 180 days you can leave Denmark, so it's quite a lot. It gives you a lot of freedom to travel, but you will get the residence permit for Denmark.
Thank you.
Maybe one last question. Was can arise? Oh, okay, wait a moment.
Yes, it's now or never.
I promise, this is the last question.
This is, I will promise. And then you have to come and see us.
Thank you. I'm sorry we don't follow your presentation from the beginning.
Yes?
I want to ask whether you have a vibrant community in Denmark, especially for a bachelor degree student, because this is my girl and she really wants to go abroad and study. But I really want to make sure that the country that she wants to study have a vibrant and different background of students, so she can, blend in and make a friends. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I actually work at a university. So I think there's a lot of international students in Denmark. So at least at the university I work at, I know there's more than 120 different nationalities from all over the world. And also Indonesian students are now choosing to go to Denmark to study more and more. I think is looking at Denmark. So yes, you would definitely be able, and I think especially if you choose a bachelor's degree where you are which is taught in English, there will be other international students there. So there will be Danish students and international students that you will be able to make friends with. But of course, it's a big challenge to go abroad. I think I applaud those that dare to study abroad and take that leap. I think that's a big part of a learning experience as well. Not just what you're learning at the study program, but that intercultural experience, being independent, being in a new country where you have to make friends and find out how the teaching going on here and where do I buy my groceries and where's my toothbrush. All these things are very challenging. And I think you'll experience that you'll grow as a person as well. But that's an entire another thing. And I think it can be a really nice experience. So even if it's not an entire master degree, perhaps do an exchange year or, go abroad for some time. Yeah. And I promised that was the last question. So visit the website and talk to us down at the booth. We are the ones with the Danish flag. So red and white like the Indonesian flag.